Hello, everyone, and welcome to Into the Darkness, the podcast where we chat about all things horror. Welcome back if you're coming from previous episodes, and welcome if you're joining us for the first time. And hello to my co-host, Sarah Lynham, who's joining me today. Hello, Sarah.
Hello. How you doing?
I'm all right. How are you today?
Yeah, good. Thank you very much. It's a lovely Saturday morning, and it actually looks like it might be sunny outside, which is crazy.
From what I can see, there's a glimmer of blue sky out there today. It is, however, absolutely freezing, so don't know what's happened there, really. So today is our second bonus episode of 2026, and it's our bonus Friday the 13th episode. So, of course, it is releasing today on Saturday the 14th of March, as it should, I imagine.
Yes, as we always intended, and we did not plan on having it come out yesterday at all. Don't worry about it.
No. We always said, fashionably late, I think, is the way to look at it.
Yes, well, famously an unlucky date. So, to anyone who saw on social media, due to just unforeseen circumstances, and I guess probably because Friday the 13th is unlucky, we haven't been able to record until today. But don't you worry, it is coming to you right now if you're listening to it or watching it.
Yeah,
so,
actually, probably going to be the quickest recording to release turnaround by some margin we've done before. But what that does mean is we can talk about a little bit of Friday the 13th news, which was released yesterday. So had it come out on time, we wouldn't be able to talk about that. Yeah. And that is the release later this year of the Peacock and A24 new prequel series to Friday the 13th called Crystal Lake. And they released, we knew this was coming. It's been coming for quite some while now, but they released some stills yesterday, which look super atmospheric and quite moody. And I'm into the very, very little that we've just seen.
Yeah, me too. Seems very, of course it was going to be in universe, but I feel like they've done a really good job of capturing a certain vibe, I think, in a certain time zone, I think, as well within these images. So yeah, very much looking forward to if this is a sign of things to come for the actual series, then it's going to be good.
Yeah, I hope so. And, being a production from A24, who have just, sort of a golden standard now for releasing amazing stuff. So fingers crossed. So this is the second Friday the 13th of the year, and there's one more in November. So probably going to see it turn up maybe around then, I would think.
Oh, yeah, that would make sense, wouldn't it? I guess unless they wanted to get it out for October for Halloween time. Yeah. But I do think it probably aligning it with a Friday the 13th would kind of be perfect.
Maybe the finale then on Friday the 13th. So.
Maybe.
Either way, I'm sure we'll be checking it out and hopefully it'll be great. Prequel obviously following the story of Pamela Voorhees, who's obviously the killer in the first Friday the 13th film, and her story and about what happens to Jason, I imagine, is what we're going to be following. So that's coming out. That's all good. And so today we are. So for those, if you haven't seen any of our previous episodes, by the way, we're currently working our way through the Child's Play Chucky series. We've done 5 of the 7 films from the original continuity, and as we've got 3 Friday the 13th this year, we decided we would roll a die and watch some Friday the 13th films depending on the sequels that we the numbers, whatever the fates told us we were going to watch. Last month we watched Friday the 13th Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan. So of course we are it's a fun movie, and it's absolutely the 8th film in the Friday the 13th franchise.
Yes.
And lots of fun. I certainly have a lot more time for it than some people do. And of course now, very sensibly, we're heading 2 films back into the past to watch Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives. And not only are we heading 2 films back in the past, we're actually watching the 3rd film in a trilogy of films within the Friday the 13th continuity.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so
for context for me, the only film I'd seen before we were talking about doing this was the very first one. So this is why it was kind of the perfect storm. It was completely randomized. I also had no context, so it kind of made it quite fun to see how it comes across to me, having literally no idea what could have happened, what could have preceded it, with the exception of knowing how the very first movie goes. So yeah, it's been great.
Yeah,
it's been wild, but it's been great.
Don't worry, you've not missed anything that's going to spoil anything for you, I think. So,
Okay.
But we should probably do a little bit of a recap of what happened in particularly the previous two films, because it will lead us very nicely into Jason Lives. So, obviously, we have the first film. Jason then turns up in films 2 and 3, and then in film 4 we're introduced to the character of Tommy Jarvis, who in Friday the 13th Part 4, the final chapter, is played by Corey Feldman, who's obviously went on to be a really famous child star. And in that film, he comes to Crystal Lake, and his family and all of the counselors around him are obviously, victimized and pursued by Jason. And at the end of the film, he picks up Jason's machete and bludgeons Jason with his machete on the ground, screaming, "Die, die, die." Jason's mask comes off, looks really horrendous underneath it, and that's how we're sort of left at the end of Jason, Friday the 13th Part 4, the final chapter. Mm-hmm. Should probably have said this around 2 minutes ago, but we're going to be doing a lot of spoilers in these episodes, and as I've just spoiled that for you, probably best to, it's done now, isn't it? There we go. So, spoiler alert for everything going forward. We're spoiling loads of stuff. In Friday the 13th Part 5, A New Beginning, we see Tommy Jarvis, now played by John Shepherd. He's in a mental institution because of what's happened to him, and people there start dying. He assumes that Jason has come back, and it's revealed at the very end of the film that it was a copycat killer, and Jason is indeed dead. He died in Friday the 13th Part 4.
Interesting.
He's done. Friday the 13th Part 5 also has an extremely high... I think Part 5 actually has the highest kill count of any of the Friday the 13th films, even though Jason doesn't murder anyone in it. So, where does that leave us? It leaves us a couple of years later on, and at the start of Friday the 13th Part 6, Tommy and a friend are in a car driving towards what we find out is a cemetery where he is so haunted by what has happened to him, he's now out of the institution, and he needs to see Jason's body to confirm to himself that he's dead. And we're set up with this really great opening scene, which has lots of gothic elements, and so we're having not seen the others at this point. What did it feel like? Oh, what's going on, or was it all quite sort of well clear to you at that point? What was happening?
I think because I knew I was going into it as it was Part 6. I had no idea it was part of a trilogy section of the franchise. But I kind of was like, I know that whatever happens straight off the bat, I'm probably not going to have context for why they're doing whatever they're doing. But I think they do a pretty good job of saying he's come out of it mentions the mental institution. It mentions the fact that they're going to the cemetery. It mentions the fact that he wants to destroy the body because he doesn't believe that just burying it is enough. And I was like, okay, great, this all tracks and makes sense. And I think partly because I have this awareness through 8 that he has a sort of supernatural element to him that I think just burying him wouldn't be enough. So I was like, yeah, that's fine, this all makes sense and seems perfectly normal. I was confused about the context for Tommy in terms of what his background was, but I think they do quite a good job of kind of I think they sort of have the audio of him killing Jason over the section where he sort of first sees the coffin, I think it is, or when they first open the coffin. So it was really good. I think they did a good job for someone, literally me, who didn't know the context, and then the context was established. So it worked really well for me, actually.
Moments, aren't you, really?
Yeah.
And as I say, this film, directed by Tom McLaughlin, who also did a film before this called One Dark Night, which is this sort of low budget horror movie that I have seen, and I can't remember it very well, but I remember it having a certain amount of sort of the working with mood in it is quite good, and I think you really get that at the start here. I think he even says that when he approached this film, he approached it like a Universal Monsters film, so he wanted it to feel like a sort of classic horror movie. And I do think it stands out in that way. This is certainly my favourite opening of any of the Friday the 13th films. And if I'm honest, my favourite film in the series. And weirdly, I remembered this just this morning, the first videotape I ever bought on Amazon was Friday the 13th Part 6.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
I know I have in the past gone and looked at when I bought it, and I didn't do that this morning, but I can always go have a look and catch you all up about how long ago Steve bought a VHS of Jason Lives on Amazon. But this was the first Friday the 13th I bought, and it's really fab. So they turn up at the cemetery, and they see the grave, and Tommy's friend, Tommy played here by Tom Matthews, by the way, who will be known to horror fans as one of the stars of Return of the Living Dead. So 2 awesome horror movies there. They arrive at the cemetery, they find the grave, and his friend is like, okay, that's it, right? There you go. There's Jason, and he decides that no, that what he needs to do is dig up Jason and just double check, really.
Yeah, and I think when they're driving along, the friend looks in the back seat and there's like a thing of gasoline as well. So I feel like Tommy is probably not going to be satisfied by just going, oh yes, a headstone, good. Yes. He definitely needs a bit more than that. And I think throughout the film there are moments where he goes, well, that's just not enough. That's not enough. We need to do this. We need to do this. So I'm not surprised that he wanted to dig him up, but like, ugh.
Yeah, I know.
Bit grim, isn't it?
I guess it's that sort of, having this character that's sort of gone through a few films, you're establishing a proper sort of rivalry here, aren't you? He's sort of in a way, sort of the Nancy and they've tried to create a sort of Nancy and Freddie approach here with Tommy and Jason. And oddly enough, he's brought Jason's mask along, which is, in a lot of ways, knowing what's about to happen, extremely helpful.
It's this kind of like idea of totems as well. It's not good to reacquaint entities with potentially something that brings them power, or potentially something that is definitive of them. I mean, I don't because obviously the hockey mask isn't in number 1. I just know that because he's such a famous monster villain of horror. So I was like, oh well, I know that's his mask. But equally, I was like, okay, why do you have that? Why have you brought this here? Yeah. So and also having not known that the entire previous film was Tommy in this mental institution and the copycat killer thing. That's actually blown my mind a little bit, because I thought that the last film would have been him as a kid having killed Jason, so I didn't know that there was like the additional like layer of that in there. That's really interesting.
Yeah, I what do I think? So the full film is quite a fan favorite, and it's really good, and it's at the point then where for people that really like their like gory kills, that the MPAA aren't being quite, that their eyes aren't as laser focused on the Friday the 13th films. So you get some really gory kills in it, cool. And yeah, Corey Feldman obviously was really liked in for his performances and in the 80s and stuff, and it's a fun movie. The fifth one isn't, it's really got its moments, but I think because it ends up not being Jason there, people sort of don't immediately go to it as one they would just watch.
Fair enough.
Yeah, so it's interesting you say about totems there and sort of bringing the totem to the killer. And when we say killer, I guess we mean that in a really sort of archetypal way, like a character that has this mythology around what they've done and has been, fully formed as sort of an icon, because there's a moment in the sequel, the Halloween 2018 sequel, which is the, retcon of everything apart from Halloween 1. And at the very beginning of that, some journalists go to Smith's Grove Sanitarium, where Michael has been back in there as a patient since the events of Halloween 1. The idea is that all the other films didn't happen and it's retconned, and he got captured again and taken there for another 40 years. And they come to him, and they're in this big courtyard, and Michael is facing away from them. You don't see his face really. at all, and he's unresponsive to them. And one of the journalists reaches into his bag and pulls the mask out and holds it out to him. And suddenly Michael doesn't react, but all the other patients start to get very nervous and start shouting, and dogs start barking, and the mood becomes... So it's like, as you say, bringing this item to this person brings a power to them, imbues them with something that they don't have otherwise.
And also this was something that we talked about when we watched Nightmare on Elm Street, when we were talking about the fact that the glove was in a furnace. I was like, why are you doing this? You're basically going, I invoke the spirit of Freddy, let's do it. It's like, no, come on now.
Ade due Dumbledore, yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
Sort of, child's play reference for those people.
Look at this. We're so cohesive. This
I know,
so
right? Have you got a Chekhov's item for this, or are we only doing that in the child's play?
Oh my God, I should have done that. I'll think about it as we go through. I'll see if I can come up with something.
So we digress. So that Tommy digs Jason up, and he opens the coffin, and we get we've said gothic a couple of times now, but a really gothic Jason corpse in that coffin. I mean, he is covered in worms, and he's skeletal, and he looks absolutely horrid and amazing.
It's great. Yeah, it's really good. It's a really nice first look at him, and I think it's a callback to it where he calls him maggot head or something when he's trying to coerce him right at the end of the film. But it's really cool, this image here, isn't it? And also I just think real bugs on a corpse in anything. I mean, bugs creep me out anyway, so I was like, ugh, but equally that's cool. But,
yeah, it's super cool. And so he grabs he goes and grabs one of the fence railings, would you call it? I always have these questions, don't I? A thing I should just know the word for. What's that called again? He goes and grabs the railing, and he goes absolutely crazy, attacks Jason's body, and embeds the metal railing, metal being important at this point, into Jason's body. And he says, I don't know, screw you, Jason, or fuck you, Jason, or something like that. Goes to walk away to get the gasoline. And Sarah, what happens?
Lightning. The power of energy and electricity, and the thing, it seems to happen a lot, actually. It's like a common theme in... Well, it happened in 8, didn't it? It was like a electrocution running through some wires that woke him up in 8, and it's also something that brings Chucky back. It's a common occurrence, and also that's basically a giant lightning rod, isn't it? The fact that it's a metal thing that's stuck in him right through the middle. Perfect, so good,
spot on.
Perfect for giving him the energy that he needs to come back and do killings.
I guess it's one of those things that because you've got the obviously novel Frankenstein, and then the iconic 30s movie with Karloff, directed by James Whale, which we spoke about obviously in the Bride of Chucky episode. And I think all of these things, whenever there's sort of this reanimation by electricity or lightning, all of these are homages back to the Frankenstein story, I think. And
definitely.
And this this wanting to be a classic monster movie, it makes total sense that you'd use that to reanimate Jason. And reanimate he does. His body may be rotting, but his eyes looking absolutely fine, and and the eyes open, and he he gets back in the coffin. He pulls the railing out, and as he turns away, Jason attacks him. And when Jason stands up, and you get a proper view of him now when he gets out of the coffin onto the ground, I think this is the coolest Jason has ever looked. I think he looks astonishingly creepy and ghoulish and just perfection, I think. What did you think of the design of Jason here compared to Part 8?
Yeah, I really liked it. I mean, even just knowing that he was coming out of the ground covered in bugs was going to be great, let alone the sort of rotted, decaying kind of look that he has going on. I just think also, I don't actually have a note of who the actor is who plays Jason at this point, but just the enormity and the presence of being able to stand there is just and not saying anything, but just kind of giving off this impression of like being this horrible monster is amazing. Like I think that it's amazing what you can do without saying anything.
Absolutely. CJ Graham is Jason in this film. And I think it's the only time he plays. In fact, I'm almost certain it's the only time he plays Jason.
Oh, okay.
He wasn't the first choice. A stunt coordinator or a stunt performer called Dan Bradley is uncredited in the film. He does play Jason during the paintball scene later on.
Okay.
But apparently it wasn't. It wasn't exactly what the producer and director were looking for, so CJ Graham was brought in, and he does a wonderful job as I'm sure Dan Bradley would have. I really like that paintball scene. I think it's really funny, actually, but we'll get to that in a little bit. But yeah, he's awesome in this film. Obviously, this is the birth of zombie Jason here. Before that, we have very much living, breathing Jason, and here he is reanimated as. I think this is the version of Jason that when he's mentioned, most people think of. I might be wrong, but I feel like this sort of undead, reanimated Jason is what people go to when they think of him.
Yeah, I can imagine so, especially because the franchise has been going on for a while. So I think thinking of him in his original form probably doesn't make as much sense. But him having been reanimated from this point onwards is probably the most recent version, the one that people think of. I also think he does look amazing.
Yeah.
And then we get the sort of iconic moment of him putting the mask on and everything as well. And I'm like, yeah, strap in. This is going to be great.
And of course we then get we'll jump slightly forward now to the title sequence, which is which, having spoken about we had a conversation a little while ago while we were playing Resident Evil 2 about James Bond, didn't we? About you having, because I haven't seen very many of them, and you've seen basically everything. And I did think about this when I knew we were going to watch this one. It's like, oh, Sarah's going to be like, oh my god, it's a James Bond reference.
It was so random as well. I was like, why? But thank you, but what?
Yeah.
So funny.
It's super
I was
fun.
like, there are so many moments that are that were funny that I wasn't expecting that there would be so much comedy in it, and I just think all of it's done really, really well. And I was cackling, and I'm like, this is great. Is this the tone? And I don't think it necessarily is comedic the whole way through. It just has a kind of real life level of comedy, like the way that people talk to each other is just kind of slightly funny sometimes, a sort of turn of phrase, or just a kind of attitude, which I think just gives it a little bit more life than if it would have just be really straight down the line serious, or
it's a kind of
or trying to be irreverent. Exactly.
Doing a little bit of that sort of self-awareness that happens in Scream 10 years later on it, but still, in the same way that, and I don't want to spend too much time comparing Jason Lives to Scream, because I think they're, very different, but, that sort of element of being a proper horror film, because no one, I don't think, if you ask people about Scream is what genre is it, you'd say it was a horror before it was a comedy for sure, even though it's very funny. And I think that's what you've got going on here, really, is that it is a horror film, but it's got it doesn't take itself too seriously, and it's got moments of really good humor. I think it's very funny at times.
Definitely. And I think it allows itself to self reference, maybe not self-reference, but it is aware of itself. And there's the moment where there's the two counselors that are the first ones that are on their way to the camp, who I've seen enough horror films to know that if there's a man in a mask, we shouldn't engage. And I'm like, yeah, perfect. This is great. These people are real people who do know that, and horror films exist, and that's great. Doesn't stop people from making bad decisions later on in the film, but at least this person goes, aha, don't worry, we can be a little bit meta, but not too not too self-referential, but just aware of itself, which is really nice.
I think you're absolutely right, and I do think because we have Jason is reanimated. Tommy's friend is very quickly dispatched. He heroically tries to help Tommy by running at Jason with a shovel, isn't it? He runs at him with, I think, and Jason just puts his hand straight through his chest.
So good.
We get an awesome hand through the chest holding a heart. Tommy runs off, and as you said, we get a turn to the screen and the mask on and the James Bond and the music, and we're ready to go for the film. And then I think the scene you mentioned there, that's the next scene, isn't it? I think
I think so. Yeah, that sounds right. And they're chatting away, like very kind of, again, very casual in a sort of like tongue-in-cheek, they clearly, I mean, I presume they're a couple, and they just had this nice little banter going to and fro, and it kind of, it sets the scene really nicely, of this kind of what we can expect of the camp counselors, and the tone a little bit as well, just being like, yeah, we're in for a good time. We are going to witness some killing by a big, monstrous guy, but like we are also going to have a good time along the way.
That doesn't mean we can't have fun while we do it.
Exactly. And I think it's so nice to have it pitched that way, because, I guess they could have gone really, really hard in on it being serious, but I don't think it would have worked as well.
Yeah, I guess at this point they're, 6 films in, we're still at Crystal Lake, or Forest Green as it's called in this film, but this is where they're really trying to do, with 5 they tried to do something different and people were like, yeah, cool, but what about Jason, and now they're saying, right, okay, here's Jason, maybe we'll try. I think there was quite a bit. I think Tom McLoughlin, he came in with a very clear vision of what he wanted to do with it. Apparently he was also trying to get some comedies made as well in from film companies. So I think that was sort of very ingrained in what he wanted to do. And he obviously had a very clear idea. I want the Universal Monsters thing. I want a certain lightness in there. I want to, this is also the only, I think, Friday the 13th film with no nudity in it.
Huh. Interesting.
So he had a very, very clear idea that he didn't want to perpetuate this idea that, you take your clothes off and you die,
Right.
And this would all have been, I think, against probably a production company that wanted more of the same so they could ensure that they kept making the money, because these films have never been sort of critical darlings, except this one, actually. This one got quite good reviews, but all the others are fair early, apart from the first one. People don't really take them very seriously. And, with Tom McLoughlin coming in, he had a very clear vision. He wanted to do something different, and it really pays off in the film, I think. It's really fab. So we have this couple. They're the head counselors, aren't they, that are heading there? And they have their, their nice self-referential line, as you say, and then are quickly dispatched by Jason using the pole still, right, from the very economical.
That's very good of him, actually, isn't it?
I think so.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's nice for him to sort of, we have a connection between where he's come from. He doesn't just sort of randomly have the machete or something like that. He has to rediscover that weapon as well,
yes.
which is nice. So he's like, let's use this. This is what we had. Let's take it with us. I appreciate someone who understands the economics
litter,
of,
did he?
Of
He
props.
didn't leave it just hanging about in the graveyard. He took
very
it with
sensible,
him.
especially considering he's in the forest.
Yeah,
very thoughtful.
There we go.
Leave only footsteps, as they say.
This is it, exactly that. Leave only footsteps and the corpses of your victims, I think is.
Sorry, I forget the rest of that. Famous saying.
See, people they never finish the sentence, do they? So that's the problem there. So while this is happening, Tommy has made his way to Forest Green Police Department, where he meets Sheriff Garris, who's played here by David Kagan, and it's fair to say they don't get on immediately, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
He's the grizzled, no nonsense sheriff, and this guy is coming into his town causing trouble, and he's not gonna have any, and he's got no time for this idea that Jason might be coming back. And this is, I think, sort of a trope you get, very often, that when you have a killer that's sort of tied to a place, with Springwood with Freddy and Crystal Lake with Jason, Haddonfield with Michael, that if people are just sort of worried straight away, it's hard to contain that. So there has to be a sense of, I guess, disbelief, and also, I guess, in somewhat of a realistic way, people don't want to deal with the idea that this person that's caused a place a lot of misery has returned.
Yeah, and I'm guessing the idea is because obviously Tommy is teenager, I'm guessing. Like, I don't know what age they're pitching at, but presumably a teenager, or I guess at the very oldest, like early 20s.
Yeah.
If he's camp counselor kind of age, like similar age to the other characters. That it's been a while since Crystal Lake, not now Crystal Lake, Forest Lake. Is it Forest Lake?
Forest
Is that
Green.
Right? Forest Green,
Forest
sorry.
Green. That's right.
The fact that Forest Green. He even says, that's why we renamed the place. We don't want to remember, or we don't want to think about Jason anymore. Like we've rebranded here at Forest Green.
Yeah.
Let's not talk about Camp Crystal Lake. But I guess fundamentally, in the same way that the hockey mask is associated with him, the location will always be associated with him. So
Absolutely.
They're trying to go, if we just change the name, he won't know. It's like, no, I think intrinsically he knows. He knows where the lake is that he was drowned in. I think they're doing their best to kind of circumvent what would be, I guess, people still be worrying about something. But if they rename it and it's been maybe 10, 15 years or so, maybe you might have different people living in the area who don't really know the legend, or it is now like a kind of campfire story. So it's not really like they're like, oh no, that didn't really happen. That was just a kind of a myth, something told around campfires at just to creep people out, like a little ghost story kind of thing.
And he does feel, I think that I completely agree with you, and I think that he does feel in very way this sort of American folklore, doesn't he, Jason? You go to the summer camp, which is this sort of institution. You go there, and at night you all sit around the campfire and you tell scary stories. And Jason just seems like the archetypal scary story you would tell in that situation. And as you say, you can rebrand as much as you want, but they're tied. It actually reminded me, you saying about we've changed the name, we've done this to try and get rid of it. In Halloween 6, they've Haddonfield has effectively banned Halloween. That's their sort of way where can't come back on Halloween if it doesn't exist. So Halloween 6 is a really fun film. Actually, I'm sure we'll get round to it at some point. I think that's all really, really cool, and sort of really does tie the legend of Jason into this place and into this series of films. And of course, a lot of the films have their recap at a campfire. In fact, I think some of the films use the same recap because it was so effective, which is they're all sat at the fire and there was this kid named Jason, and all good. So the sheriff's having none of it, and he basically says, that if you're gonna cause trouble, you need to, get out of here. He's aware that Tommy's come out of an institution, so he's obviously, very skeptical of it. And they lock him up, don't they? They see him as a troublemaker and they put him in a cell. There's another police officer who arrives, who's a bit more sort of the. He's not super bumbling, but he's, a little bit more of that sort of, he's not quite as aggressive as the sheriff is.
Oh, yeah, but he is keen to use that laser scope, isn't he?
Yeah, where's it? Wherever the red dot goes...
ya bang.
Ya bang, yeah. Oh,
great line.
Isn't it? Yeah, fabulous. And that comes back later on. It's not quite a Chekhov's one, but we do get a repeat of that. So
yeah.
Okay. And then the next morning, he's still locked away, and the sheriff's daughter Megan arrives. Megan, played here by Jennifer Cook, and she arrives with her friend Sissy Court and Paula. Who is the sister of Lisbeth, who is the woman who was killed in the car in the scene with the cemetery. Yeah.
Did they say that?
I was wondering whether I just missed that. I saw that when I was writing notes that they were related, but I didn't clock onto it either when I was actually watching it.
No,
yes.
I didn't clock that. That's interesting.
And
no wonder she was the one that... She does seem like the one who's the most concerned about not knowing where the head counselors are. So I guess that it makes sense, but I don't... Maybe I just didn't register it if it did get said, but...
Yeah, no, I'm not sure as well. As I say, I only got this when I was getting my notes together for it. I was like, oh, there's a link there, but maybe, maybe the concern is voicing it enough. Or maybe if we watch it back, we'll be like, my sister hasn't turned up. And we're like, what were you doing during that? Yeah. Why? So they all arrive, and Megan is immediately she's kind of smitten with Tommy, isn't she? She's sort of she wants to believe straight away that.
Yeah, and she's super into him straight off the bat. Like I quite like that actually. Like instead of the sort of meek lead female character, she's very, very self-assured and very confident, and it's great. It's nice to see that as opposed to the classic final girl who's maybe a little bit more timid and virginal, I would say, is often the kind of one of the defining factors, where she seems actually quite very willing, I'm sure, to get it on with Tommy, because she totally fancies him straight off the bat, and there's a great moment later on.
He's a handsome guy, right?
Yeah. She's clearly not fazed at all about the fact that he's like, oh my god, we need to sort out Jason. She's like, all I want to do is just give you a big old snog.
And we'll deal with machete wielding, hockey masked murderer later on. And so that they have this little moment, and obviously Sheriff doesn't like this, and they're quite a nice little gang here, actually. I think again, they're not. I think where you sort of these films are so often built around archetypes, and it's not that isn't a thing here, but when they are that way, it's very hard for them to not come across as quite grating at times. When you've got the particular like the tough guy and the nerdy guy and this sort of thing. And as you say, it does subvert that a little bit, because Megan seems so confident and so self-assured. But also anything they do in this that is, in real life would be a bit annoying, because the film has that sort of more comedic bent. They're kind of endearing. Like there's a bit later on with Court when he's teaching about the stones, and he's absolutely... doesn't know what he's talking about at all, and is getting really sort of taken the piss out of by that young kid that keeps turning up for a one-liner every now and again.
That kid who's just like, I can't wait to share my tight five when everyone's willing to listen.
Like, I've got one. I hope someone looks at me in a minute, because I've got a zinger. And I think in this film, what that does is it does allow you to sort of really warm to the characters, rather than think, this guy's just being an arsehole, or this, that, and the other. What were your impressions of the sort of the little team here?
I really liked them, like especially liked Sissy and Court. Like I thought they were just really fun characters, and I think you kind of need to have a Paula to balance things out. Like Paula seems like the relatively sensible one who is probably the only one who's going to get stuff done. And Megan seems like she and Sissy are the fun ones who will probably get up to mischief. And Court, I mean, you kind of need you almost need a version of Tommy who is also a counselor. If you were to have like a full stack of like counselor archetypes, I suppose, because Court's kind of the cool one who thinks he knows what he's doing, whereas I think Tommy is meant to be the kind of more rugged outdoor guy, versus Court being a maybe slightly alternative character. Doesn't he say something loud? So the sheriff says something about his jeans because they've got big old tears in them. Or something.
Yes, he does.
I can't remember what it is.
Yeah,
I can't remember what it is. Like, didn't your mother teach you how to sew, or like, something like that? Like,
I've
and I'm
had
like,
that one before when I because I wear tall jeans in the summer, and I can you not afford a new pair? And I think that's the only way I'll ever identify with the character. But there we are. I feel like there's a link.
I do think he's great though. Like it's a nice character. It's a nice dynamic, like to have all of those. I do think Sissy and Megan are kind of similar in terms of the way they're pitched, and it makes sense. Like if Tommy wasn't in prison, or if we were just assembling a gathering of counselors, this is a great like lineup of people, and that's exactly what you need. You need the sort of representation across the board, and
they all get a little moment they all have a little moment, I think, in the film where they get to sort of show their personalities and whatnot. And I think all the performances are like across the board here are good, actually. You can sometimes be a bit lumbered with a group where you're like, oh god, these are they're really grating, and I'm not sure whether they're doing a good. But these guys are all really decent, I think.
Yeah, I thought so too. I thought, like, in general, I thought the performances in the whole film were really, really strong. Because I think sometimes there were moments in 8, because that's kind of the only thing I can really compare to, where I thought some of the performances were not so great.
I was where I was. I was where I wanted to go. Really, there's a. Yeah.
And it's wild to think that this one came out first, and I think that's why I'm like, oh, that's odd that I would say performance-wise and structure-wise, and yeah, I just think that the whole film is a stronger film than 8.
Significantly.
Yeah,
Significantly.
It's more cohesive, like better direction. It's great. I really enjoy it.
I felt kind of lucky that we had 8 first, because as I said in the podcast, it's one that I do have a certain fondness for, even though I'm very much aware of its faults. But it also meant that because you didn't have too much to compare it to yet, you could be, can be a bit kinder about it. And now as you watch, what is Steve talking about that this one's okay? Like, your opinion of me will go down the more of these that we watch.
I do think it meant that when coming into this one, I had different expectations. Like,
would you say massively low expectations there?
I wasn't going to say that specifically. I had moderate expectations.
Fine.
And I was more than pleasantly surprised. I really enjoyed this film. That might have been. Yeah, it might have been partly to do with the fact that I went in with such moderate expectations, but also I think it stands beyond that anyway. Like, I think it's a great film, regardless of whether I'd seen 8 or not. And even if I hadn't seen 1, I think it would have been an amazing. If this was someone's first introduction to the franchise, I think you'd be like, I love this. And
you'd be full in, wouldn't you? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I hope they're all like this. And do you know, there's some really, I think it's only really at the sort of back end where there starts to be I think that this franchise benefits from, I don't think any of the films in it are like masterful, but there is a general sort of consistency that runs through them. You can put one of them on, and for the most part they're a really good time for 90 minutes, and so in that way they're total successes, I think. Really, it's only towards the end where things start to break down a little bit. We've met our characters, and we've also let's talk about a scene that we've briefly mentioned so far, but I just think is really, really fun, and actually in the way that it feels in its own way really sort of I don't know, like modern and progressive as well, which is this scene in the woods with the paintballing, where the company are on their paintballing trip, and you have these, like, let's face it, arsehole blokes, like, all playing, and they're talking about, they're taking it all really, really seriously, and then one of the women in the office sort of gets the upper hand on them and shoots them both and beats them, and they have to put their, was it like dead bandanas on or something? Yeah. And I just think this is a pure comedy moment that works really well. Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, it's really fun. I thought I was confused about why it was happening, but then I just kind of went, that's fine. Like, I was like, I don't know if these characters are going to come into play later on. I mean, they don't get much of a chance, do they?
No, not really, no.
But it's brilliant because, it's nice to once again have, like, nice strong female representation, and it not being a case of, I think they complain about, why did they let her play? And she's like, well, one of them says, it's because she's like, he's one of the CEOs, like, she's upper level management or whatever she is, so we had to let her play. And then she says, cheer up, boys. I actually did this all fair and square. Like, I actually did the full army guy thing and whatnot. Put on your bandanas, please.
Yeah.
It's great. And then you've got your other little, like, sort of dweeby guy running about in the woods on his own as well, who's just sort of bumbling about, breaking bits of tree and trying to figure out where everyone is. And I'm trying to think, how does he get taken out? Because we get the one guy who's there's another guy who's like kind of pissed off that he's been taken out as well, and he's the one with the machete.
Yes.
So this is sort of our establishing of the machete, right?
Yes, this is how Jason. It's not how Jason got his groove back. It's how Jason got his machete back. And because, as you say, it is an odd moment because you have this sort of like them being the way they're being, and then they're sort of unceremoniously, even though she's clearly got a much brighter head on her shoulders than they have. It doesn't really save her or any of them, does it? They're all sort of dispatched because one guy gets killed, Jason gets his groove back, and they all get taken out in one machete chop, don't they? All get beheaded.
Yeah. It's great. I was impressed that he's managed to take out 3 in one go with that.
Been very economical again.
Again, yeah.
Yeah, it's 3 people, 1 machete, which isn't a video you should go,
Don't put that into the dark web.
No, don't. And then we have this really nice moment of comedy where the other guy shoots Jason with the paintball gun, and Jason, it's a really nice moment. And as I say, this is the moment where it's, as far as I'm aware, not the guy that plays Jason throughout the rest of the film, but he does a look down and then a look back up at him as like, a bit, what?
That's great. I just, they've put this moment in, I'm presuming, to sort of give life to the fact that people are comfortable being in this woods and in this area again, because it's Forest Green now. It's not Crystal Lake, so everyone feels confident enough to go on a work outing where you play paintball. And also, isn't this like presumably like daylight as well? And he's able to just take people out no matter what the time, and it kind of removes the safety blanket of murderers only killing at night and that sort of thing. So it's interesting to see that as well. And that's five people who get taken out in one go, and that the kid, the dweeby one, gets like killed up against a tree.
Yeah, he gets
and there's like a smiley face
against, and it's like, ooh, sort of POV almost, isn't it, of him?
Yeah, and he just leaves a big like red smear on this tree, and there's like a smiley face that's been like cut into the tree. I was like, great.
Yeah, I mean, Jason's planning this stuff out. He's like, well, I'm gonna smash him in the but there's got to be a tree around here with a smiley face on it, right? You wonder how long he checked.
He's sort of like fielding them for a while to be like, okay, just go here.
Yeah,
line them up for the perfect moment, and then be like, cool, this is it.
Yeah, all we needed was a knowing look at the camera, wasn't it, for sheer perfection there. So it's hindsight, isn't it? It's a powerful thing.
Yeah.
It's not the only weird sort of face slam in this film, because later on in the van, the mobile
RV.
home RV. Thank you. And how have I got this far through my life? We get another sort of face slam that then has the outline come through the other side of the wall, don't we? But we move ahead of ourselves, or I move us ahead of ourselves, and we now, things are going on, and finally the kids arrive. They're at the Forest Green. Obviously, the 2 head counsellors are not going to turn up, and the young counsellors are stuck there, having to look after them. And there's sort of a really sympathetic moment. Is it Paula that's doing the speech for everyone? The kids?
No, it's Megan.
It's Megan. Thank you. And she's suffering through this thing, and we've all been there. Where you're just trying to create a sense of excitement when you just don't know where this is going. I've probably been there a few times this afternoon so far, so
I think this is really fun. It really like encapsulates the fact that they're like, oh no, we don't have our head counselors, we're just gonna have to muck in and give it a go. And Paula and Sissy being behind the kids at this point and kind of just going, yeah, keep going.
Yeah. Enjoying it as well, because it's not happening to them, which is certainly an easily relatable thing.
Definitely. I think it's wild that like Court then has all those boys and it's just him. Like the fact that he's the only male counselor was probably
I didn't even
quite
consider
challenging. That. But also, like, he seems super chill. He seems not fazed by it at all. He's like, oh yeah, I know what I'm talking about. Listen to me talk about stones and like Native American people leaving them and like learning how to shoot an arrow and stuff.
Yeah, and just saying things that, as you know, as you say, talking about sort of the Native American sort of practice and stuff, but using just think, oh my goodness, this guy would lose his job, so...
Absolutely. And also I think the kids are a bit like, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about.
No.
And yeah, again, with the sassy kid who's got all his one-liners, he's just got like a pocket full of like, he's got his notepad ready, and he's like, yeah, okay, so this one will go perfectly for this moment.
To say something like, if this is the most exciting that this week's gonna be, we're in big trouble, dude. You sort of think, because that's such a... Sorry, go ahead.
His friend's just like, yeah, I'm gonna hang out with this guy. He's funny.
Yeah, I will be popular just by being near you.
Yeah.
So. The interesting thing about a character like Court is that he's endearing in the film, but if you knew him in real life, you'd think he was a tool, right? So
yeah, totally, total douchebag.
Yeah,
but he comes across really, really, endearing is right. I was going to say charming, but I don't think charming is the word. I think endearing is right. You're just sort of like, oh bless. You don't know what you're doing.
You're not doing it well, but you're doing your best. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's lovely just seeing them all sort of clearly out of their comfort zone, trying to deal with it. Also at this point, meanwhile, back at the police department, we have Garris has decided that the best thing he can do to deal with this situation so that Tommy doesn't spread panic and also get closer to his daughter is basically just take him to the city line and chuck him over and say, no, don't you come back here now you're here. But they first decide that he's gonna prove to him that Jason isn't alive. So they go back to the cemetery, and this actually is a character we haven't spoken about yet, which is the caretaker at the cemetery, who discovers much earlier than this that Jason's grave has been opened, but because the body of Tommy's friend is in there, he thinks it's Jason's leg hanging out. And he thinks, well, they're clearly going to blame me for this because I drink too much and they're going to think I'm unreliable, so I'll just cover it back over. And there's a really funny cut at one point. I don't think it's the first time you've seen, but when he's finished covering it or something, and he says, they're all going to blame me. Do they think I'm a fart head? And then it cuts back to the kids all going, yeah. So... it's just sort of littered with nice little moments, isn't it, really?
That's really funny. And also, this character is this kind of reoccurring, like, sort of unreliable, either because they're drunk or because they appear like mentally unstable kind of character that you encounter throughout. Well, certainly I think of examples of this kind of character in the first one and in 8.
Yes.
Who's a sort of like a bit of a loose cannon, and you're not really sure what they're going to do. So can you really trust what they say kind of character? Like, but he seems quite almost comedic, generally speaking.
Yeah, he's less suspicious, isn't he, than the others?
Definitely. Because just seems a bit like he doesn't know what he's doing.
Yeah, whereas the other two, they're sort of under suspicion, aren't they? I think they're more... dangerous or perceived to be dangerous, whereas poor fella here is just trying to do his job and make it work so that he keeps his job, really. Would you call it?
He's like wrong place, wrong time.
Absolutely,
a couple of times, basically. Like,
yeah, definitely. Would you say, like, is it Doommonger? You'd say those characters were
I think so.
Harbingers of Doom or something like that. That
definitely.
Sounds cooler.
That sounds way cool. I don't think. I think that'd be very generous to give it to this character, because I don't think he sort of alludes to anything. He's just a kind of. It feels like they're trying to kind of check the box of this trope, but they've done it in a different way. Instead of having him sort of like lurking behind a tree, being like, "Don't undig,
you're all doomed." Yeah.
Don't go near the tombstone. Like, none of this kind of evocative kind of suspicious kind of chat. It's just him sort of being like, oh no, they're gonna think it's me. If anything, actually, maybe that's what the perspective is like for that person. They're like, I'm just trying to tell someone something, but they're just gonna think that I'm trying to mess with them. So if anything, he's almost like subverted. Because his perspective on it is, they're going to think that the crazy old man in the graveyard, the caretaker, is the one that's messing with things, where actually he's the one that's trying to fix things. He's trying to bury the body again. He's trying to... What's he doing when he's like... He's like out in the woods when that couple are out in the woods.
Yeah,
that's
his death scene, isn't it? Because he gets quite a sort of harsh. I mean, that is another thing to say. Is not only is this film not have any nudity, but also on the violence front, I think the deaths are, you know, in their concept quite horrific, but there's nothing too you know, gory in this film.
Yeah.
It's actually way more focused on sort of the atmosphere and the mood and the comedy than it is on going, oh, look at this cool gore effect. But it is sort of harsh in some places, and his death is Jason has a bottle, doesn't he? And he crushes the end of it and then quickly stabs him with it.
Yeah, and I think that's the same bottle that he was literally drinking from. I think he even says, "This will be the death of me."
Bottle?
It's Chekhov's bottle.
It's
there it
Chekhov's
is.
Bottle.
Yes, we got it.
Yes, we got there. Have you come up with one? Sorry to everyone listening. Have you come up with one for Cedar Chucky at all, or was it Bride of Chucky?
Oh, I haven't. Oh my god, I was meant to think about that and I didn't.
Join us next week for Curse of Chucky and the Chekhov's something or other that we hadn't come up with yet.
I think it must have been Bride of Chucky because it was Seed of Chucky when we realised that we didn't do one.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, no, we I'm sorry everyone, we've let you down, but we found one in here, so you're welcome, I guess.
But it is brutal, isn't it? That moment.
It is. It's horrid.
Yeah. Like I think the concept of like being stabbed with glass like that is pretty horrific. Whereas I imagine having your head lobbed off by a machete is quick and painless.
I've heard it's actually quite nice. I've heard it's preferable in a lot of ways.
Yeah, in terms of ways to go, if I had to choose,
yeah,
it wouldn't be death by glass bottle. That's not my first choice.
I think that's it, isn't it? You say like that it feels unpleasant, and I think it's because we've all we've all had a bit of a glass cut or something.
Yeah, stood on glass
And the fact that it would gouge as well as, like one thing cuts, but glass would gouge, and yeah. And then the couple, I think we've moved reasonably far ahead here, but he does, and then the couple get killed because they witness it, right? That's.
I think so. Yeah, I think you sort of hear something going on, and the man goes off to find out what's going on, and she's like, no, don't go. And then,
they're having a picnic, aren't they? They're having a picnic.
Yeah, I think does he propose to her, or is it just I can't remember if it's.
And that's
I think it's a proposal,
as well,
right?
Isn't it? Well, they've already done the proposal, and they're talking about it, and then
she's sort of like, oh look, yes.
He's being charmingly nonchalant at this point.
Yeah, she's trying to like get it on with him, and he's like, oh no, I've got a headache, and they're doing this sort of like reverse role thing. But again, I think this is another example of the people in this area now feel safe, and they don't actually think anything will happen to them because like the concept of Jason is mythological and is just a story. So they're all happy to come down to Forest Green and have a late night picnic and whatnot. But no, unfortunately, he's back.
He's back. He's here at least for another film after this one too. So you just got to put up with it, really. So after they go to the graveyard, Jason's grave is now covered in. The caretaker is still alive because we've not reached that point narratively.
Oh yeah, whoops.
And but there we are. And it's, by the way, Martin is the caretaker. Just check my name. Martin's the caretaker. So Martin, the caretaker, he's covered up, and he obviously denies any responsibility for this because he doesn't want to be blamed for anything. And Tommy is thrown over the town line, so don't come back. And then poor old Martin is killed. Meanwhile, and this is where we get to a nice little aside in today's episode. Court is in. It's now nighttime, right? And Court is in an RV with a young lady named Nikki, and they are getting it on, but sans nudity. And they're listening to listening to music, and she tells him that he's got to last the full song, and does she say it's like another 10 minutes or something?
Another 10 minutes.
She must be into prog, I'm assuming, sort of I would imagine, because it sounds to me like a sort of 4-minute glam metal banger going on. But
it definitely sounds like that, yeah.
Yeah, which don't tend to go on for 10 minutes, but maybe there's an epic solo coming at some point. And then Jason pulls the power out.
Mm-hmm.
This get they Court goes outside. This gets fixed, and then once they get back in and the power gets back on, there's sort of this elaborate 2-person murder where Nikki is, as the RV is going backwards and forwards, she's dragged into the bathroom, and because the music's playing and Court's driving, he doesn't recognize that something terrible is happening. She gets killed, and then Jason comes out and stabs poor old Court in the neck. But during this whole sequence, there's the song Teenage Frankenstein playing by Alice Cooper, and thought this would be a nice little place really to just talk, because we've spoken a lot about wanting to talk about music on the podcast, how it sort of ties in with horror, and this would be a nice place to go and just talk first very quickly a little bit about Alice Cooper's connection to this film, and then talk a little bit about music in horror films, and predominantly in the end credits of horror films as well. So Teenage Frankenstein is from Alice Cooper's album Constrictor, which is a really fun sort of hard rock album from basically the same time period this came out. This song is used in here, and also the song He's Back, the Man Behind the Mask, which is really the film's theme tune. It has a music video using clips from the film. And you can't really imagine a more perfect person to come in and do a song for your horror movie than Alice Cooper, sort of king of shock rock, absolutely dominating, live performer and releasing incredible albums all the way through the 70s. And if you're a fan of his, releasing amazing albums all the way into the 80s, 90s, and into the 2000s. Did you like the 2 songs that are here in this film?
Yeah, definitely. I actually haven't listened to much Alice Cooper in general, but I know from listening to these 2 songs I would definitely enjoy listening to more Alice Cooper. So I need to suss some of that out. Yeah. I think it feels like the right pitch as well, like, because there's a kind of sense of obviously there's sort of horror elements to his performance, and like the way that he sort of markets and brands the Alice Cooper kind of idea, but also like there's a bit of levity in what he does, and sort of like and comedy that marries perfectly into the vibe that we get in the film. So you couldn't ask for a better pairing, really.
Absolutely. And he also, he's a huge horror fan, and he'd go on to actually have some performance roles in Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare, and John Carpenter's Prince of Darkness, which he also contributes a song to. And lots of that goes through. He's a rock artist, but we move about from sort of some more interesting sort of bizarre rock and roll in the early 70s, some theatrical rock in the late 70s, the glam and heavy rock period of the 80s. And just as a little recommendation to everyone, if you are looking at listening to some Alice, obviously all the classics are fantastic, but there are a couple of albums from I think the early 2000s, Brutal Planet and Dragontown, which is essentially Alice looking at what people like Marilyn Manson and Rob Zombie are doing at the time, and sort of what's happening with sort of nu metal and stuff, and going, okay, cool, hold my drink, not hold my beer, because he doesn't drink alcohol, but hold my drink. And he released these 2 basically metal albums that are steeped in this sort of dark, macabre sort of Christian ideology, but he manages to make it feel really subversive and really perverse. There's a song on Dragontown called Disgraceland, which is about Elvis, which is just this in terrible taste. We actually, me and Paul, my husband, we listened to it again earlier this morning when I said we were going to be talking about this, and it's a really inappropriate track that you sort of think is in terrible taste, but it sort of shows what he was doing at the time, which was basically saying, you think, to all these new artists, you think you're shocking, you think you're outrageous, well I'm gonna do these songs about school shooters and the fact that that you can try and be a good person but still end up in a bad place, and look at what the world would be like if it was this and it was that. And they're really, really worth listening to. I didn't really know Alice when those albums came out, but a little aside here, a little bit of a Steve story here, but in 2002 went to Monsters of Rock at Wembley, and he was headlining, and that was when this Dragontown album came out. Me and my dad went because we were going to see Thunder, and we stayed for Alice. Alice absolutely did this extraordinary live show, absolutely fantastic. And then I, got into his music through that. So I'd recommend those two albums. And if anyone gets the chance to see him live, go for it. He's still an amazing performer now. But we head backwards. So Constrictor album, these two songs of it, and there's another song in there, I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but that was released in a box set later on. But I thought what would be quite nice is to, at the end of this film, we have his song, He's Back, The Man Behind the Mask play, which plays during the film as well. And I've done a little list of awesome end credit songs in horror movies. And I thought we'd do a little share of those and maybe chat about those a little bit, so that everyone's got a playlist at the end of this episode to go and listen to. Why not? We all need more music to listen to. So I picked, so obviously the first one I guess would be this song, He's Back, The Man Behind the Mask, from Friday the 13th Part 6 by Alice Cooper. We're then going to go somewhere really unusual with the song, where are we there? Botanica de Los Angeles by the band Shoo Shoo. Shoo Shoo being a sort of avant-garde noise rock pop act. It has to sort of be listened to be believed, really. Really dark song, really dark lyrics. James, the vocalist, his vocals are really out there to listen to. And this song is from the end credits of Creep 2, which, if you haven't seen the Creep movies or the Creep TV series, they're so good. Found footage, a little bit of dark humour in there, but really, really unsettling as well. My third choice would be Pet Sematary by the Ramones from the film Two Cat's Eyes. No, from Pet Sematary. And, we all love that song. Recently covered by Unto Others, which is a band I know that we all really like. Saw them support Green Lung last year. That was over a year ago, that gig.
Yep. Oh.
Ooh, okay. But yeah, classic song. I don't want to be buried in a pet cemetery. Both the most ludicrous lyric ever and the best one to sing along to. Fantastic punk rock there. The song Last by 9 Inch Nails, which is from The Cabin in the Woods. Love the film. It really ends it on a massive bang, great industrial guitar, really angry song. Can't recommend 9 Inch Nails, that song or that film enough. Really fantastic. The song Waving Goodbye by Sia. So we're moving away from rock and metal here to a more sort of pop bass, or sort of ethereal pop, I guess you'd call Sia, really. This is from the Neon Demon, which I've only seen the once, but remember just finding the end credits with this sort of imagery and this really beautiful song playing over the end, really impactful. In fact, I would say that Sia has equally, that she has a song. Do you know the song Breathe Me by Sia?
No.
So that's used not in a horror, well, in a different type of horror, but there's the final piece of music in the series 6 Feet Under. And I don't think I've ever cried so hard at anything media related in my entire life. I mean, I just sobbed all the way through the end of 6 Feet Under. And when I watched it with Paul, was worried it wouldn't have the same effect. And we both just sat there and fell apart, really. So really, really powerful. She writes some really evocative music. The song Dream Warriors by Dokken from The Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3. Dream Warriors. Super fun, glam song. Amazing hairstyles in the music video. It perfectly complements the movie. You have a lot of fun with that one. I know you're going to be happy with this one. Hunter's Moon by the band Ghost, from the soundtrack of Halloween Kills. Yeah, what can we say about Ghost other than we could probably do an episode about Ghost, really?
We absolutely could. Yeah, love Ghost.
Yeah, love Ghost.
Love Ghost.
Love Ghost. I had no idea this song was part of the soundtrack. Halloween is probably my favourite horror franchise. I love Michael Myers. I love the character. I love the movies. And seeing the video for this, not knowing it was going to be a tie-in to the Halloween films, and then seeing the Michael Myers mask with Papa. Yeah, a lot of screaming happened in the house that day. Hunter's Moon by Ghost off of the amazing Emperor album, isn't it? That song. Mm-hmm. The Heart's Filthy Lesson by David Bowie off of the criminally under-listened to and underrated Outside album from the film Seven. An album really about if murder could be an art form and a society where it is treated as such. Seven obviously being an amazing horror stroke thriller crime movie that is just pitch black in tone, and the film really complements it perfectly. An odd choice into sort of the more sort of sort of instrumental and symphonic, although it isn't an instrumental song. The track She's the Mother of Tears by Claudio Simonetti featuring Danny Filth from the movie Mother of Tears, which we saw at the BFI a couple of years ago.
Yeah, we did.
What was your opinion of Mother of Tears?
I mean, it was pretty amazing, to be fair. Like, I think around that time we watched quite a few pretty intense films. I think it was incredible. I don't when was it that we actually watched it?
We watched it in the NFT free, and it feels like a cold time of year. We watched it.
Yeah, it was definitely It feels like it was a while ago now, though.
Yeah, it definitely does. But yeah, this is a really great symphonic track. This is at the point where Argento's filmmaking has gone away really from that sort of real stylized idea of what we all associate with him. And, this is a film that's, doesn't completely work, but has some, it certainly goes for excess, and we've got to have some credit for that. This is a really cool track. I know that Danny Filth's vocals can be an acquired taste for people, but I love Cradle of Filth, and this is a really, really cool little song in the end credits. And then finally, the Chordettes, Mr. Sandman from Halloween 2. This is a song, unlike anything else on the list, but really creates an evocative mood at the end of that film when... No spoilers for Halloween right now.
Yeah.
But
no spoilers. I've not seen it.
But really, really fantastic song that I think out of context isn't creepy at all, and then used within the context of Halloween 2 is unforgettable, really.
We love a bit of juxtaposition.
Yeah, we love a juxtaposition. I wanted to include as well, but I don't think it happens in the end credits. It's the final moments of the film. But at the end of The Devil's Rejects, there's Freebird by Leonard Skinner, which once you've seen that song and that end sequence together are tied together forever, really. Really fantastic. So 10 end credit songs from horror movies that you might want to listen to after you finished listening to us.
Yeah.
Yay.
I also think there's something about credit songs and I'm really glad that this has become an art form, because so often people will just go, oh, it's the credits, I'm going home now. And sort of we're tied in with now this kind of post-credit scene kind of obsession that came in sort of like the mid 2000s, or I can't remember exactly when they started having post-credit scenes or during credit scenes. But I just think it's such a nice moment to kind of tie a little bow on a film, on a project or something like that kind of either does what the Chordettes song presumably does, which is juxtaposed against the film and leaves you kind of feeling a little unsettled, or kind of just goes, yeah, wasn't that amazing, if it's like a big kind of glam rock kind of moment. I remember watching Retaliators at Fright Fest.
Oh yeah.
And the final song was by Ice Nine Kills, which is literally called Retaliators, funnily enough. And it had a big kind of it was just Retaliators. And I was like, oh, everyone's just going to sing that because it's just really easy to remember. Even if there were parts of the film that I was like, that was all right, I suppose. But like what the film was doing was really fun, and the fact that you go out of a room being in the same mood, and it's kind of continued through the credits. I just think it's great. I just think it's cool that that's a thing that we're doing now, and I hope. I mean, I don't know how many people who actually sit and read the credits these days. I hope people, are doing a little bit of that. But I just think it's nice.
Yeah, it's as you say, it's a nice way to sort of, I think, put the finishing touch on a film, and also, as you say, hopefully get people to stay around to see the artists who might not be on the screen but are equally as important to what's going on.
Exactly.
The end credit sequence is interesting. I guess really the big then they didn't originate it. I'm sure this has happened in awful, but Marvel, I guess, is where we've really had this sort of real normalization of having to hang around. After your 2-hour, 20-minute film, you need to, the toilet can wait. Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, the evolution of credits in general is interesting because if you watch older films, particularly the black and white or going into silent era stuff like that, credits would happen at the start of the film, and the end credit was literally just kind of the end. You saw everything at the start. But yeah, nice when a good film is capped off by a great song, and sometimes nice when a not so great film is capped off by a much better song. But that isn't the case here. They complement each other beautifully. So I guess we should go back to Friday the 13th Part 6 now.
Back to the RV.
Back to the RV. So they are dead in the RV while cool music plays, and. So Garrus's men, they go off looking for what's going on, and they find Nikki and Court's bodies, and this, of course, implicates Tommy. At this point, Tommy's being implicated all the time any bodies are found because he's considered as a risk. And when the sheriff catches up with them later on, because Megan and Tommy, they plan an escape, don't they? They meet up, to deal with this. The escape is later, I beg your pardon. And when the sheriff catches up with them, she basically says, well, when did this happen? We were together, so we can't possibly have been, it can't have been him.
Yeah, exactly. And I think there's still a sort of refusal to acknowledge that. And that's probably in part the sheriff wanting to kind of maintain a sense of peace and not have panic that the thought of Jason being back would bring. So I guess it's him trying to be cautious. He's just doing his job, I suppose, at the end of the day. But also his job would be to listen to all the evidence that's being put in front of him. But I think this is when Tommy gets locked up as well.
Yes.
And Megan's not allowed to leave because the sheriff wants her to be safe.
That's it. So they all end back up at the police station. Tommy is put in the jail cell again. She's told, don't you go anywhere, young lady, while he goes to deal with the mess that he assumes Tommy has made. And they're left with the other officer, yes?
Yes. Yeah. The guy with his laser scope.
The guy with the laser, Yabang? Yabang. And they essentially find a way to both escape and to share a little share a smooch.
This is a bit odd though, because I wasn't sure whether they had maybe they hadn't aligned with their plan, because she seems a little taken aback by it to start with.
You're right. Yeah.
She's like, oh wait, I thought we were just gonna, I don't know, get you out of the cell. But he was like, no, I'm going to snog you. And she's a bit like, just, her eyes are still open. And I'm like, that's the sign of someone who's not into a kiss just yet. Gives her a moment. And then she's like, I do want to do this. But initially it's a bit like, oh.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. At first she is taken aback, isn't she? But it all turns out okay, which is fine. I
hope. I mean, a little bit problematic to start with, but I guess she does eventually kiss him back and seems very into it, and then they have to be broken up by the guy, which I think was the intent, is to get him over there that they
get him over there, because they're arguing, aren't they? He says doesn't he say her drawing shit or something? Hits her where it really hurts, and Yes, because that's what they're at first sort of trying to. We'll get this over here, and then he takes an opportunity which he shouldn't have done.
Exactly.
Which he shouldn't have done, but luckily,
because I think she's written a note or something to him, and she shows it to him, and he sort of like nods, and then then they start this kind of conversation, this pretend fight. But I think it's the kiss kind of comes out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And I think she's probably like, wait, this wasn't the plan. So she's like, what do I do? And then she's like, well, I guess it's the plan now.
Yeah,
so,
and luckily she had expressed some interest, so we
indeed
we hope that this is all okay.
Consent is sexy, everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. So they get. What's this? Have you got the officer's name there, by the way? I feel very mean. No, bless you.
No, I've got Sheriff Garris there, and I've just got Yabang.
Have you really? Okay, so I mean that's his name then, isn't it? So Officer Yabang, he comes over. Not Officer Yabang, Officer Yabang. He comes over and they basically trick him into getting out of there, and they escape, and he's left there looking like an idiot.
Yes.
Yes.
And this is when she gets his pistol and trains it on him, and they do the reverse of the line at him. And
they do.
Yeah,
and
very
he's
satisfying.
not laughing now, is he? So, so they escape, and where are we now? Oh, so we also have, so back at Forest Green, we have, unfortunately, over a period of time here, the deaths of both Paula and Sissy. But then, with a bit of information actually about Sissy's death there, apparently speaking earlier about there being, no nudity in this and maybe less violence than expected. Sissy's death was one of the deaths that actually was extended. Apparently, she was originally just dragged through a window. But it was added in the head turn because they needed more sort of violent moments, and it's a cool death. There's a bit earlier with Sissy actually that I really liked that we didn't mention, which was about the game that she's talking about with the cards. Jason is he's in this deck and he's here, and I'm this card and you're that card and Jason's this card, and I was thinking about it as we've been talking now because it sort of ties in nicely with that folklore and urban legend element that you were talking about, the fact that these things take on a life outside of themselves and become, it's like Ring a Rosie, I guess, and stuff like that. Did you sort of get that from it when you were watching it?
Yeah, definitely. And I think the whole, it kind of ties in with it being potentially something that gets told as part of like a campfire story. You'd have like a deck of cards and be like, oh, now we're going to play the game where, because you probably play board games and card games and stuff like that when you're at like a camp or whatever. So yeah, I think it was a nice kind of tie-in and kind of works with this idea that he is part of the lore of the area, right? So he's a story, he's a game, he's everything.
He's a bedspread, he's a lunchbox, he's which in some cases is true. I mean, with Freddy particularly, that was always an odd thing. They had Freddy Krueger lunchboxes, and you think this is a child murderer on a child's lunchbox going to school.
Yeah,
wild times. So yeah, unfortunately, both Sissy and Paula here are killed. But the interesting point here is that none of the children are harmed at this point.
Yeah, I was also surprised when Paula was killed because for some reason, and I don't know if this is just something that I'd projected onto Jason, but I thought that the reason he killed was because the counselors were either having sex or like giving off this impression that was the only thing that really mattered, so they weren't caring about the kids. Whereas Paula, throughout the entire thing, is the most caring person, and she looks after the little blonde kid who was having nightmares, and she tells her to like say a prayer when she sees a monster, and by coincidence that does actually work at one point when he's like looming over her and she says a prayer. But I think that Paula constantly is this kind of just very, very straight-laced and is there to look after the children. Doesn't seem kind of interested in court or any of the boys that are sort of presented or around them. So I was actually, like, I was like, oh, she'll probably be fine. She'll be one of the ones who manages to get out or something like that. But the fact that actually he doesn't care, he will kill her because she's in the way.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it feels like a subversion, doesn't it? Were you expecting maybe that there'd be a sort of twist where she was the final girl or something, or were you just expecting that in the conclusion she would survive along with?
I didn't think it would be a twist of her being the final girl because I didn't think she'd featured enough in terms of like had enough screen time and presence for that to be the case. But I did think she'd survive. Maybe she would be the type of person who would get away from the camp somehow and maybe alerted the police or something like that when we got to the sort of final section and then the police would arrive. That's kind of how I thought. I didn't think she'd be part of like the final confrontation or anything like that. And I certainly didn't think she was going to be killed. Yeah, so I was quite shocked by that.
That's really interesting. I think because I guess I've seen these films over a long period of time. I guess I never really questioned that because it was just part of the fabric of my remembrance of it. Well, she's going to die because I've seen this film before, and I think that's really, really interesting. Actually, that she's a character that doesn't break the rules and yet is not safe. And I guess that's where I was sort of going to go with the fact that the children survive here is that they are in a way they're safe because they're not really capable of breaking the rules, so they are safe from what he does. But you're absolutely right. She follows all the rules and doesn't survive. I don't know what that says really, but it's really interesting.
I don't know if it's just meant to be that like the innocence cannot exist past a certain point. Maybe is kind of the implication. Like, it doesn't matter whether or not she didn't seemingly do anything wrong. Maybe, and also I think that like the caretaker doesn't necessarily do anything wrong. I would say maybe you would say that the sin of like him indulging in drink is the thing that he does that's bad. But that doesn't align with certainly not what my understanding of Jason's issues were. So. Yeah,
I wonder whether it's that we've sort of these rules as such. They're not like a textbook. They're just, I guess, patterns that we have observed in these sorts of films. I'm and maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think there was necessarily a stated rule book. It was that there were certain ideals that I guess were reflected in the society at the time these films were made, and they were reflected back at us, and then taken almost as like a sort of gospel like MO for the characters, to go by. But really that the rules sort of tie in with when it's appropriate, when it fits the pattern, as opposed to, so it does happen more often than not, I guess, maybe, but they're not writing it to fit the rules. It just so happens that the rules fit the narrative. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. And I also think that now I'm kind of thinking about it a little bit more. The folks in the paintballers, like what were they really doing other than? Yeah, I guess like you could sort of stretch what you think the MO is and say, they were making pretend war. They were, using weapons to like attack each other. But like, I guess it doesn't have to always be this is the rule and that's the only way for Jason to truly be Jason. Like, I think that's fine. I think it's fine for it to be he doesn't hurt kids because that's not, that's fundamentally not who he is. That's fine. But anybody else and anything else that gets in the way.
Yeah, I guess absolutely. I think that there's just like for the kids, for instance, that I guess for him there's a link of, because I think there is an element of punishment with what Jason's doing because of how he died and the reason he died. So it would make sense that he was going after people that were, having sex or doing drugs and stuff, because he sort of died on people that were doing those things. I don't know whether it's a reflection of any idea or other in terms of the story, other than Jason is doing that for that reason. But it would make sense why he doesn't kill young kids then. But really, he's this sort of cold-blooded monster that is just gonna kill people whether you're breaking the rules or not. So they'll fit sometimes. Yeah.
That's almost scarier, because then what can you do? You can't do anything. You've just got to somehow overpower him. And remember, paintball guns don't work.
Yes.
Shovels don't work. At one point, we realize that revolvers don't work.
No, machetes do work, but don't stab him with anything made of metal during a thunderstorm.
That just gives him power. Don't do that.
Yeah. I mean, really, he's got more rules than vampires, isn't he? You know, it's.
So there was this moment that we might have skipped over a little bit. That was probably my favorite bit, and it was something that I not only told Connor about, because he hasn't seen the film, but I then made him watch it when I watched the film a second time. Okay. I was like, honestly, this is so like, I think it made Megan come across hilariously well, and kind of was an interesting dynamic between her and Tommy. So, you know, the bit where she's picked him up in her car, and she's like, oh, okay, yeah, duck, like the cops can see you, and his face gets like shoved into her crotch, and he's like, huh, and she's like, yeah, that's what I like. And then she says like a couple of like really choice lines like during that whole sequence, and it keeps like cutting back to his POV, and it's just like her crotch, and I'm like, great.
Yeah, it is. It's a bizarre moment, isn't it? It's obviously completely played for laughs here. But it's just another one of those ones that you just wouldn't get in any of the other films, isn't it? Really, I guess.
Right.
So...
And then she goes, she says something like, "Oh, it's a bit of a hairy turn here," and I was like, "Oh." So
Zing.
And then his head's like rocking to and fro, and it was great. I'm like, this is so silly. And then he literally has his head down there the whole time until she gets stopped by her dad. And then he just sort of like pops his head up very innocently, like, hello.
Yeah, hello, this looks absolutely fine, obviously.
Sorry.
Honestly. What was Connor's out of context response to it?
He was just laughing, and I'm like, yeah, because it is like a purely comedic moment. I tried to give him context afterwards, but I was also like, it doesn't really matter at this point, that like this is a funny kind of moment, and also the fact that it's like, I think traditionally, that it's the other way around, gender-wise, that probably a woman's head would be in a man's crotch while driving. Like, I don't know. Is that just I
guess if we're
a preconceived idea that I have. So
I don't know.
I just like that it was the other way around.
That would be a tough Google, wouldn't it, to get away with Google in a lot of ways. You do that in the private browser, but
incognito mode.
Absolutely, which I'm assuming is a thing that browsers have.
I don't know. I wouldn't, that's what I would call it if I were to call it.
Yeah, I would definitely call it Firefox private browsing incognito if I were going to call it anything, if it existed, which it probably doesn't.
I wouldn't know.
No. What were we talking about? And I think that's another thing, just in terms of that sort of comedy and why this film's so well favoured in that way. Is there are moments that are daft sometimes when something is taking itself really seriously that you therefore cannot take it seriously for. But if it's doing it with a wink and it's doing it with a nudge and all of the, you just let it go. Like, Court isn't an arsehole, he's just a fun guy. Yeah. Whereas if this film wasn't going for humour, you'd be like, oh, he's a smug prick. But that isn't it here. He's endearing and he's funny and he's well-meaning somehow, just by having that sort of element of comedy in there. He just can't last a 10-minute, and that's not his fault.
I just love the line when the power cuts and he just goes, and she goes, already? And he's like, wasn't that the end of the song?
He should listen to Grindcore. He'd be much happier. You could do a full album in 20 minutes. It's odd as well. The light goes out. It's like, it's not a sort of, it's like,
yeah.
It's like he's just had a, refreshing beverage. Anyway, so we digress again. We're good at that, I think. If nothing else, we're fabulous at it. So we head... all that's happening now is this is all building, as we do when we do this podcast. We're now reaching the moment when we're all building towards the conclusion, and of course the conclusion can only take place in one place, and that is Forest Green / Crystal Lake summer camp. And when we all arrive there, we have everyone sort of gets separated from each other. And the sheriff, he eventually meets his end at this point. He doesn't survive to the end. And he has quite a grisly death as well, doesn't he? He has he's sort of bent, right? Sort of
he's
folded
like
in on himself.
Yeah. After witnessing one of the other... He finds the body of one of his men whose head's been like squashed, and all his his brains and stuff are like coming out of it. Like the head is there with stuff coming out the nose and mouth and stuff. It's like
lovely stuff. There's gross. 3 officers that go in a little bit before this, and they're in all of them. And as you say, one of them is this head crush, which is there's a in front. This isn't really a spoiler, so I can get away with this. And we've spoiled 4 and 5, and so we might as well keep going, really. But there's a Friday the 13th 3. Is notable for 2 reasons. The first reason being it's when Jason gets his hockey mask, and the second, I was going to say the third reason then, and the third reason I can't count, and the second reason is that it's in 3D. And so there are, I don't know if there's any releases that you can actually still get it in 3D, but there was a big sort of run of films in the 80s where they capitalized on 3D, but it's not the 3D we have nowadays. It would be the 3D with the red and green or red and blue glasses. So you watch the entire film wearing red and blue glasses. Terrible headache. But a lot of films did this, and Friday the 13th Part 3 was one of them. And there is a head crush in that one where the guy's head is crushed to such an extent that his eye pops out as a 3D effect. It just goes boing at the camera.
That's great. That's so good.
It's fab. And what's so weird now is because all the releases are in 2D and they don't have that the red and blue effect, you just watch a film where people are sort of sticking things at the camera and you're like, what? And it's all because obviously in the cinema, there is a in terms of 3D horror movies, Freddy's Dead, which I mention an awful lot on this podcast for some reason, which I've probably mentioned I'm really not a fan of as well, and I'm sorry, Freddy's Dead, I'm just not. But what something it does have towards the end is it has a whole 3D sequence where the character in the film is told to put on 3D glasses, so that's your sign in the cinema to put 3D glasses on. And it has that effect going on as well, and you can watch it in 3D if you have I think it's on the Blu-ray, it's definitely on the DVD set, and if you can find some old 3D glasses anywhere, and it works, it's pretty fun. It's just you can't see properly, but everything does stick out, and it's quite cool. So Sheriff is dead, and at this point, really the climax here is that Tommy wants to get Jason back over to the water so he can finish this off, and but he is at this point pursuing Megan, and she's trying to look after the kids and stuff, and as he's going for her, Tommy basically does the whole "I'm the one you want, do you remember me?" Chekhov's maggot head, was it?
That's it. Yeah.
I mean, when you've seen someone done all these atrocious murders and killings, I think maggot head's fairly tame, really. He's heard
absolutely. Yeah, I think he could have gone in harder than that, but he didn't, because Tommy's a good boy. He's
a good fella. It's like that Office meme, isn't it? That, oh, you're hard, so come on, maggot. And so he brings Jason away from Megan. We end up in the water. Things don't go quite well, and there is a tussle between all 3 of them because Tommy gets pulled underwater, and eventually Jason is both taken down and gets the propeller of a boat into his face, and you see it sort of cut a little. Well, not a little. Probably hurts, to be fair. Look at me, like, a propeller hit me once, and you don't see me crying about
and
it.
I'm fine.
And I'm okay. So what's Jason's problem? And Jason sort of floats to the bottom of the water after he is smacked in the face by a propeller. And it looks like Tommy might be dead at this point. What were your thoughts? Were you worried? Were you concerned?
I thought that it would be. I thought it would be fine. If he could die, that's fine. I'm not worried about it. I
would be okay with that if Tommy Jarvis died.
That's basically what I'm saying. I think that killing a main character, but now knowing that he was part of a 3, like the character of Tommy existed over 3 films at this point, I think that's quite poetic, and I think it's totally fair to take out a character of that level. But it was nice that he didn't get killed, because it's nice that Megan and Tommy then can, I don't know, see what happens.
See what
and
happens. Get back in the car and
yeah,
rest their heads on each other's.
Finish what they started.
Absolutely. I'm with you, by the way, in terms of I'm always somewhat, even if I love the character, so there's no reflection on Tommy or any other characters where this happens, really. But I always admire the balls of, looking like you're gonna murder a character that everyone loves, and then being kind of disappointed that I've not been disappointed, like that I've not had my feelings hurt. I kind of want to. I want to be shocked, and I don't want to. So I'm on your side, really. I would have appreciated.
Yeah, and I think it's in a way. You almost, I know that a lot of people have died up until this point, and I'm not kind of diminishing that.
No.
But I think that, like, taking out someone like Tommy, who has sort of been pitched as this, like, super rival, especially when he's like, I'm the one you want. Like, it's very, like, if you're gonna take out someone who is as powerful as Jason, you kind of need to pay for that somehow. Yeah. So I think that was, in my head, I was like, that seems like a very fair price. A big price, but a fair price. But yeah. Then Megan brings him back, and all the kids are like, "Yay! He's not dead."
It's a like woo moment, isn't it? Really. Interestingly, like so the Friday the 13th game, which has now you can't play anymore, but it was popular when it came out. Tommy was actually a character in it who you could summon, who would then come into the game, and was the only character capable of killing Jason in the game, which is pretty cool. And another cool thing, just as we're coming to the end now, and it's something that I really wanted to recommend, because for two reasons. Number one, because I think they're excellent, and number two, because Tom Matthews actually reprises his role as Tommy in them. But there is a production company called, I think, Womp Stomp. I'm really sorry if I've got your name wrong, so I'm plugging you, but I think they're called Womp Stomp. And they have made some Friday the 13th fan films, Never Hike Alone being the first one. And they've also released a prequel to that, and they've got an animated Friday the 13th fan film coming out. I know sometimes when fan films are mentioned, there's a certain amount of, oh God, what's that going to be like? These are the most professional, polished, excellent. I mean, if we haven't had Friday the 13th films for over 13 years now, these are not just a worthy stand-in, but like could be canon. They are so good. You can watch them on YouTube for free because they're fan films. They obviously you can't sell them, so they're all on YouTube. They have Tom Matthews back as Tommy Jarvis in them. You can watch a super cut of, I think, the first 2 or 3, which is about 2.5 hours long. They're brilliant. They're better than some of the sequels, quite honestly, and I can't recommend them enough. Go for it. You'll have a really good time. And if you want to see Jason in the snow, they've got you covered as well. So totally worth it. Never Hike Alone. So there we are at the end of Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives. And the film comes out. It does well. It makes money. It gets pretty good reviews, which at the time was certainly not the norm for not just the Friday the 13th film, but slasher films in general. And it leads to the next film, which is probably about a year later, because these films do come out extraordinarily quickly, which is the New Blood, Part 7, The New Blood, I think, which has a young girl with telekinesis go up against Jason. So it's kind of Carrie versus Jason, really.
Interesting.
And and that is, of course, the last one to take place in Crystal Lake, I think, for the before they head off to a boat and then a little bit of Manhattan for a while. Yeah. So, final thoughts. You enjoyed the film, yeah? It's super. It's fab, yeah.
Oh, it's so good. I absolutely loved it, and unfortunately, I thought it was much better than 8.
You're getting right. You've sort of been very kind to me throughout, and as we're going along, it's all like, no, Steve, really. I mean, it's a significantly better film.
Can I just remind you?
Yeah,
that, this
it
one's
is a
better.
significantly better film than 8. I'm not disagreeing with you.
I just think what I really liked about it is just like the way that it pitched itself. Like the tone was brilliant. I really like that the performances from everyone were really strong. I thought the characters were really nicely developed, and I'm now really interested in like watching the 2 preceding films to like kind of catch up on that trilogy section of it. I mean, in general, I want to watch them all, but equally, I'm like, do I save? Do I not, so that we can maybe watch another one in November? But November is a long time away.
Yeah, so we're in an interesting place there, where like, do we decide what do we because I think we've got, I don't know if we're announcing it yet, but we do know which film series we're covering next, don't we? I don't know whether we talk about that yet or not. Maybe not this episode, but
no, we can definitely talk about that in a regular episode.
I think that's in terms of the case.
But I wonder if like maybe if Crystal Lake the show is coming out around the later part of this year, maybe we could talk a little bit about that.
That would be nice, wouldn't it? Yeah, that
would be. But I'm also happy to just to see what happens. We can come up with a plan.
Yeah. Because if we're just waiting for Friday the 13th, it's going to take us years to get to it, isn't it? So
yeah. And also, I'm really interested in watching more of them now that I've seen this.
This is it. So
now that I've seen these 2, so
it's all open now. The world of like franchise horror is all there for us to go and spend time in. But there's a lot of them.
And also, I thought it was quite cool that I really like this film, and it's nice that it came out the year that I was born, 1986.
Hey,
so it's the 40th anniversary of this film, and somehow I'm still 21 years old.
It's amazing how these things turn out, isn't it?
21 and some change.
Sorry?
21 and some change.
21 and some change, beautiful. There we are. Thank you all so much for joining us. This has been really fun, and November's, as Sarah said, November's our next Friday the 13th. I don't know if we'll be doing a Friday the 13th film, but we'll be definitely be back with a bonus episode in some way, shape, or form. So this is our second episode in as many weeks, and we're back again next week because we are rapidly and quite sadly, really, although I am really looking forward to where we're going next. But we are with our penultimate Chucky film next week, the Curse of Chucky.
I can't believe that we've got round to so many of them so far.
It's been so good, and that is a film that, having spoken about end credits, things that happen after the credits, is a film that, if anyone's watching along, stay after the end credits for Curse of Chucky. You need to; it's essential.
Okay,
there we are.
Good tip.
Thank you all for joining us, everyone. I'm going to be quiet now, and I'm going to let Sarah say goodbye for us and let you all know where you can find stuff out about us. Thank you all very much for joining us.
Yes, thank you so much for listening, everybody. It's really nice to be able to do these bonus episodes, and maybe we can find some more opportunities to do them throughout the year, because waiting till November, Friday the 13th, is a long time, and if we come up with something cool in the meantime, maybe we'll do that. But if you want to listen to other episodes, if this is your first time listening to us, hello, check out our other episodes of Into the Darkness by looking for The Darkness... The Darkness Between Us. Wherever you get your podcasts. And you can search for Into the Darkness via Uncanny Collective on YouTube to watch the video version. The video version is also available on Spotify, and I think it will soon be coming to iTunes, which is very cool. Ooh. But otherwise, audio only, wherever you get your podcasts. Find us on Instagram at Uncanny_Collective. Let us know what you think of the episode. We'd love to know if you've seen the films, if there's anything you'd like us to have a listen to and have a watch of or have a play of. Let us know. We'd love to, we'd love to get involved in the things that you're absorbing in the horrorverse. That would be great. Also, reach out to us individually. Our Instagram handles are along the bottom of here. I'm at Sarah Lynham, and this is at Uncanny Steve over here. Yeah, we'd love to hear what you think, and we'd love to just have a chat about all things horror. Yeah, that's where you can find us, and it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.